Well, the universe has a funny way of helping us to understand the lesson of the moment. And as I was sitting here reflecting on the astrology of the upcoming week, I was thinking about how we are in the middle of eclipse season and it's all about the letting go of the busyness of the South Node Virgo and accepting the go with the flow kind of attitude or the just surrender to the divine plan energy of the North Node in Pisces. And, I talk to a lot of you every single week, and that seems to be the guidance that comes out. I don't plan for it, it just flows. And in my own life, what happened is I got so busy. I had two friends visiting from out of town that I spent a bunch of time with. My schedule filled up. I did a ton of readings. We were moving. There's all of this craziness going on all around. And so my desire to follow the guidance of the universe and go with the flow got thrown off balance, although did it. Maybe the flow was to ride that wave of busyness and see how easily I get into this mode of head down, work, work, work. I've noticed this happening with a few other people as well, where their intention was to slow down. And instead, they had a million opportunities thrown at them, or they had things that came up that they couldn't cancel, they couldn't stop. What is the lesson there? And you can ask yourself these questions as we're going through eclipse season with everything that happens. What is the lesson here? A few other people were planning to be very, very busy, and then something came that like hit the brakes, stalled them out. One of my good friends got sick, had to cancel everything on their calendar. Another one of my friends' cars had to go into the shop and they were stuck at home. So, right now, you are being given exactly what you need to learn the lesson. I'm Nafa Perkins of Astrology. This is the Path Ahead, my weekly astrology forecast, where I'm going through everything that's going on in the sky through that spiritual, psychological, astrological lens so that you can better understand yourself and the lessons that are presenting themselves and the mission that you are on in this incarnation in the planet. I am offering my fourth season by season workshop. I'm offering these at the equinoxes and the solstices. So if you want to register for season by season, this one's called Turning Inward. We're going to be going through the astrology of the autumn of 2025. And ooh, it's really quite magical astrology, actually, but it does require a turning inward to understand it. So you can register down below. You can also register on my website, electraastrology.com. So before we get into the charts, we've just passed through our first eclipse of eclipse season. This is an eclipse that encompasses both Virgo and Pisces as the nodes were there. And this was a lunar eclipse, so it was a full moon. So just think about the themes that came up for you over this past week, because this was an eclipse that related to 2006. So if you can go back into your albums, your emails, your calendar, and remember what was happening in 2006, there are connections to be made. So I want to share a little bit about what happened when I decided to do that. So, the version of me that I found back in 2006 through emails, through reading the words that were coming out of my mind, typed into a screen and sent to other people. I was overscheduled. I was overdoing it. I was a people pleaser to the extreme. I had a toddler and a brand new infant, and I was not slowing down. I was availing myself to anybody that asked. I was running around, taking walks with people, spending time with people. That was when I also had a jewelry business. So I was wearing every single hat as an entrepreneur in that business. I was creating the jewelry. I was selling the jewelry. I was even, oh my God, running around and delivering jewelry to people. Of course, this was 2006, so the prices were lower. But when I looked at what I was charging people, I can't even believe I didn't charge more. The sense that I got when I looked back at 2006 version of me was somebody that was stretched to the limit and honestly on the verge of a meltdown, which ended up coming a few years later. So I've been really holding space for that supercharged superwoman who felt as if there was no room to slow down, as if pleasing every person, meeting every request, doing everything that was asked of me and doing it perfectly, really being with that version of myself because I was drained. It was not sustainable. And so, over the course of the last 19 years, I've had to learn a lot of humbling lessons about slowing down. And this is one of the reasons why you hear me talk about Virgo and Pisces. And I say this is the hardest axis to work with because we are taught to people please. We are taught to do everything that is asked of us and to do it well. And we don't want to let people down. We don't want to disappoint. And we want to look good from the outside. And yet, if we do that constantly without taking our needs into account, without having compassion for where we're at, without having empathy for what we're feeling or how we're doing or what our energy level is, like I had a toddler and an infant, and I was working and delivering jewelry to people instead of having them come pick it up for me. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I was doing that. I was hostessing. I was having people at the house. We were doing dinner parties. Yeah. So, like I said, it didn't end well. There was a few year period where I kind of dropped the ball. And so, thinking about that version of myself and thinking about who I am now and how far I've come, and how easy it is for me to say no, and how protective I am of my time and my calendar and the prioritization that I give to the people that I love first and foremost, and then to my clients, etc. But with discernment, I've come a long way. And I want you to really look at your own experience since 2006 and think about where you have come a long way from. It's really important because we're looking at the beginning of an entirely new cycle. If these North Node Pisces eclipses are the spiritual awakening eclipses, well, you're closing out a chapter and something new is coming. Something really powerful is coming, but we have to be able to take everything that we've learned and bring it forward. And you know what? I still struggle with saying yes too often. And I still am in a constant battle with my calendar. So I am in no way perfect. And yet I can see how far I've come. And when we're dealing with a sign like Virgo, it brings up the inner critic, right? So there's a lot of that inner critical voice that lives within each of us when we're talking about our Virgo energy that's like, you need to be good. You need to be perfect. You need to say yes. You should have said no, right? Whatever the voice sounds like. And Virgo is a relentless inner critic. I will tell you that, okay? If we are still a slave to that inner critic, then we know that we have work to do. So we're going to talk about some of that. We also know that that Piscean open door of surrendering to what is really important. So I look back at my last 2 weeks. My intention was to be chill and go with the Pisces flow, and it didn't work like that. Instead, I was packed to the brim with things. And you know what? It was great because it meant that when I went back into my emails from 2006, I had a felt sense of, oh my God, I used to do this constantly. This used to be my life, and it's not anymore. It is this week, and it was last week. And I can feel the shifting in my nervous system. I can feel how it throws me off. But the universe gave that to me for a reason. In the same way that the universe is giving to you everything that has been going on for you for a reason. If you're in a forced slowdown, wonder why. And if you are in an unexpected speed up, I wonder why. So let's get into the charts. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, into those questions. We're watching this moon post eclipse have to run this gauntlet between Saturn and Neptune. So the moon is still bringing you information about what you got from this first eclipse. And I want to remind you too that Uranus has just stationed to go retrograde. So that is supporting us in a bit of a slowdown in the mind. We got very excited with Uranus moving into Gemini because it was like, ooh, all this newness in the way that I think and the way that information is coming to me. But now that it has stationed retrograde, there is a slowdown because we are preparing for it to head back into Taurus, which won't happen immediately. Uranus moves very slowly, but in Taurus, we have to go back and deal with the final lessons around security and our finances and our worthiness. So now we're getting a little space to contemplate about what is the energy of these eclipses? What is the spiritual awakening? What are the seeds that are being planted? Because when I look back at 2006, it wasn't that I had the spiritual awakening in that year, but what came after that was pretty mind blowing. And of course, I'm on the other side of it now, so I can look back and be very grateful for everything that transpired after that. But it wasn't necessarily easy, but it was very necessary. So, right now, as you are 18, you're 19 years older and wiser, what do you know is necessary? What is coming into your field of awareness that you need to give some time and thought to, but that you know there's something big? There's something big that's coming. And we have gotten plenty of breadcrumbs along the way because the last handful of years have not been easy. They have been very awakening already and quite mind blowing. And there's so much still to be understood, but we begin to understand little pieces of it. And as the moon is meeting with both Saturn and Neptune, pay attention to your emotions and what's coming up for you because those will bring tidbits of the sense that you're seeking to make. Now we're beginning to watch Mercury. Mercury is going to be making some more connections this week. It made a bunch last week. It is going to make a quincunx with both Ceres and the moon here on September 9th. So we're bringing in the mind and the way that we understand information. So as I was trying to get a grasp on the astrology this week, I pulled a card from this deck that I love. It's called the Spore. It is a deck by Four Sigmatic. My dear sister-in-law, Danielle, helped create it. I pulled a card that is called Passion Flower. And in reading about the passion flower, I'm just going to read you this one paragraph from it. Despite its name, the passion flower is used to put out the flame instead of igniting it. This climbing white vine with stunning, psychedelically designed purple flowers is widely used as a sedative. It relaxes the nervous system and promotes deep sleep and a peaceful mind. So even though it has a psychedelic, hypnotic appearance, it is a calming flower. And I thought that that made a lot of sense for looking at this Mercury, because Mercury is making a quincunx to the Sun in Ceres. Next, it is going to meet the Sun, and then it's going to meet the South Node. This is all happening while the Sun meets with the South Node. So there's a lot going on in respect to Mercury with the mind. It's going to feel like there are all of these interesting, exciting, stressful little pools of thought that you can dive into everywhere in your life. But the wisdom, the guidance is to relax. Just breathe. And that is the thing, that's the issue with the South Node. By the way, I released a new talk on astrology for awakening on the Virgo Pisces axis. It's a great one to help you understand the energy of right now. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to release all of that perfectionism, that urge to be really busy, that urge to dive into the chaos and try to make sense of it. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be moving in that North Node direction of calm, of peace. And calm and peace can mean different things to different people. For me, it looks like remembering to take deep breaths. It looks like remembering to come back to myself and to really listen to myself and to honor myself. And, for you, it might mean going out and spending time outside in nature or exercising. Essentially, when we release ourselves from the busyness of our minds, where do we go? Do we connect into prayer with our higher power? Do we spend time with the beings that live in our homes, AKA our animals? Do we pull cards? Do we remember to take deep breaths? Do we go out into nature? Do we practice yoga? I mean, there are a million ways to meet with God. And the invitation is so strong here to do that. So let's look at the sun in meeting with the South Node. When we slow down, when we create space away from technology and away from everybody else's opinions and away from our schedule, and we just come back to ourselves, essentially connecting in with our own heart space. That is the exalted mission of the sun, is to connect with the self. I did talks all through the summer, especially through Leo season, talking about the sun and the shadow side of the sun as being that ego or even that inner critical voice, the one that has desires and wants things to be a certain way in order for them to be okay. As the sun meets with the South Node post lunar eclipse, you're going to get some messages of more things that need to be let go of. So this is similar to you doing a huge purge, getting rid of a bunch of stuff in your house, and then getting ready to move. And you realize, I've got to get rid of more stuff. I'm not going to be able to use all of these things in this new space. So this new space that we're creating as we're preparing for the next spiritual awakening, right? We're getting rid of that human stuff. We're getting rid of the part of us that says, you are only good enough if you make a certain amount of money, let's say. You're only good enough if you do a certain amount of exercise. You're only good enough if you can just let go of this traumatic thing that you keep thinking about. You're only good enough if you can get people to love you or if you can stop loving this person that you've been hooked on. Right? So just think about all of those places in your life where you have a bar for what makes you good, what makes you valuable, what makes you worthy. Like, how do you show up? And that's a good question. What makes you worthy? We all have our list of things that make us worthy in our mind's eye. Okay. Has nothing to do with just the inherent worthiness of who you are, but what are the things that you need to do? How do you need to look? What do you need to buy? How much money do you need to have? Whose respect do you need? These are the deeper questions that are presenting themselves to us, and they're difficult because when we start asking ourselves these questions, and if we're honest, we have to confront that inner perfectionist. And when we confront the inner perfectionist, it's like we also have to look at our attachment to being perfect and the fear of letting somebody down or the fear of being seen as boring, nerdy, broke, like a loser, right? Think of what's on the other side of the requirements on your list of worthiness. And so just take a deep breath into that because this is the deeper work of spiritual awakening. When we can look with honesty at the things that we're really afraid of. How are we afraid to be seen? And, I would say that within every single one of us, there are aspects, there are parts that aren't cool and aren't interesting and are spiritually deficient and financially broke. Doesn't mean that that is all of our parts. It means that those are the parts that need a little bit of attention, a little bit of holding. When I think back to 2006, Natha, what was I afraid of? Well, I didn't want to let anybody down. Why? Well, I wanted them to love me. Oh, do you think they would have loved you if you weren't running around like a chicken with your head cut off in a state of postpartum depression, melting down? Yeah, they probably would have loved me anyway. Yeah. But I had to realize that. And I had to do a lot of work in learning to love myself. And this is what the message of Pisces is it is the compassion and the self-love. and the self-love that connects us with loving of our self, loving of our higher self, connecting with our higher self, connecting with God. So this is really powerful work. So for all of the little places within you that feel unlovable, that feel unworthy, that you are willing to become an indentured servant to somebody or something in order to hope and pray that you get approval, it's not necessary. The people that really love you and that are really useful, the people that you want sticking around are going to love you no matter what. And that sounds trite, and it is absolutely the truth. So we're looking at some hard themes as the sun meets the south node. And this is go time. The trash truck is rolling down the street, and you want to make sure to fill that trash can up with all the trash in your house so then it just takes it away. Okay, so that's the sun meeting with the south node. And then the next day, Mercury meets with the south node. So we're getting rid of all of those thoughts, that narrative that we're always telling ourselves. You have to be good. You have to do it right. You have to say yes. You cannot mess this up. Okay, we're dumping those narratives as well. And then on September 13th, Mercury meets with the sun. So this is a day, this is a cazimi. And when we have Mercury back behind the sun, as it is when it's direct, we are getting clarity. And that clarity is turning outward. It is beginning to shine. We are beginning to see it and feel it. It's not so introspective like it is when Mercury is in retrograde and it meets the sun. Now we get to take what we've learned since Mercury was in retrograde back there in Leo a few weeks ago, if you remember that. We get to take what we learned from that Mercury retrograde in Leo. We get to take what we've already gathered so far from the eclipse. We're headed into another eclipse at the new moon. And right now, on September 13th, the moon is also meeting with Uranus. So again, lots of time to get some powerful information about what we're doing. Like, what is the meaning here? Why are we here in this messy incarnation where it seems like the world has gone a little crazy? We have access to way more information than we need. We have no business knowing what's going on an intimate level in countries and cultures across the world, and yet we do. We have no business knowing everybody's opinions and reading everybody's little snarky comments about everything that goes on in the world, and yet we do have access to that. We have no business having 10 different streams of information that come to us in the form of messages and emails and phone calls and comments, and yet we do. So it's like here we are on the planet at this time, trying to spiritually awaken, being completely inundated with extra information that's not necessary, and we're trying to hold our center. Okay? It's like we're on one of those core fitness balls, trying to hold our center with music, 16 TVs, kids crying, dogs barking, people laughing. And that is what we are doing here on this planet right now. And that's okay. We're here for it. We're doing it. But do know that this week, and especially actually over the next few months, and that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about in the season by season turning inward workshop, is that we are getting some spaciousness in amongst all of the craziness to tune in and check in with ourselves and really see like what's here, what was, and what's coming, and meet those things from a place of presence. So we're getting a little taste of that this week. Now, before we end, I want to talk about Vesta. Vesta, the asteroid. I did 4 good Vesta talks under the Astrology for Awakening playlist on YouTube. Vesta is an asteroid that reminds us that we must pray to our own temple. We must contact the sacred flame of our existence, of our awareness, of our connection to source. Vesta is going to be making some really nice connections as it moves into the sign of Sagittarius. Before it does that, though, it's making a trine to Saturn, both in water signs. So Vesta in Scorpio has been reminding us that the more willing we are to look at some of the difficult things from our past, the stronger we become. They become less scary and we understand them more. They hold less power over us. And then Vesta is going to do the same thing that all of these other planets have been doing as it's meeting with these outer planets that are in the low degrees. It's going to make a trine to Saturn and then Neptune. It's going to make a sextile to Pluto, and it will make an opposition to Uranus. So, in a nutshell, this is the reminder that when you are nervous, anxious, stressed out, bored, not knowing what to do, having questions, etc., that you always have this place within you that you can go to, where you can close your eyes and take some deep breaths and just connect in. What is here right now? What am I feeling? What am I noticing? What is the temperature in the air? What am I hearing? What have the themes been in my life? What seems to continue to present itself to me? What are the symptoms that my body is creating? Where are the things that I need more of? Am I drinking enough water? Am I breathing deeply enough? When we use that Vestal energy to tend to our sacred flame, we become more awake. We have more connection to the invisible realms and to the layers of information that are harder to access, right? It's very easy to access an email account or a social media account, right? We have these things that are on our screens, but when we're wanting to tune in and like get messages from God or from our higher power, we have to visit that Vestal temple. And as Vesta is making connections by degrees to all of these outer planets, these are the planets that bring the divine information to us. So a lot of divine information coming in this week for you as well. All right, I hope this was helpful. Go ahead and register for season by season turning inward. I would love to have you in that workshop. And I'll see you all at the end of the week for another Virgo teaching. I believe it's the Virgo shadow this week. I don't think we've done that yet. All right, have a good week.